Hello and welcome everybody back to Heart and Soul's Yoga Life channel. I'm so thrilled today to present to you one of my personal heroes, Alison Armstrong. Hi, Alison.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Why is she my personal hero? Because her book is probably the only one I've ever read 5 times. She has actually written a whole bunch of books. My favorite personally being the Queen's Code and Keys to the Kingdom, which are both about understanding ourselves and our behavior as women towards men and how we can frog farm them. That's a term I found fascinating, how we can actually turn them from our personal princes into frogs by behaviors that we don't even know about, that where we are expressing ourselves in a way that doesn't necessarily contribute for us to having the relationships we want to have, right? Tell us a little bit more about you, just in a nutshell, Alison, so that people who have never heard about you can start to appreciate how, for example, did you become a person who studies men and women in that depth?
Well, people ask me sometimes, what character am I in the Queen's Code? And the answer is all of them. But I started out as Melissa, and really angry and vengeful, and lots of expectations and lots of projecting onto my son's father, my first husband. That what he did because of the reason I would do it, right? Which is not very normal for women, and therefore he deserved to be punished. And then I became Kimberly. It was actually a woman that I worked with who was called a frog farmer. Yeah. And I had that vision of a wraparound porch and fields of frogs. And when I decided to study men, I really did think it would take 2 or 3 months to learn everything that was worth knowing about them.
Yeah. How did that work out for you?
Well, that was 1991. Yeah. So here we are. February was 30 years. And I really never really committed to it. I just, once I started listening to them, really listening to them, being curious about who are you and why do you do what you do, I became fascinated. I went from curiosity to fascination to awe, to love. I adore men, and they, our company is called Pax, right, which is the Latin word for peace, and it's one of the things we seek, peace between men and women. But it also stands for partnership, adoration, and ecstasy. And yeah, and so, and then studying men had me rethink who I was as a woman, and then had me get more curious about why women do what they do, and then illuminating women for men and men for women and women for women, because we don't know why we do what we do, and men for men. And it's been a really long time. I've been part of transformation since 1980 would have been my first program. I was 19 years old. And so why human beings do what they do, is a fascination of mine. And I'm excited because I'm going to start writing, well, it's writing itself, the sequel to the Queen's Code.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm excited.
Yeah. And get to share more of not just what's male and female, but fundamentally human. That if we can have compassion for ourselves and even a sense of humor about the stuff we do, life gets so much easier. So much easier.
Absolutely. And what I love about your books in comparison to a lot of relationship related books is that it's really about trying to understand the other person and trying to see that they're not actually working against you, and you have to somehow manage them, or you have to somehow almost manipulate them in order to get what you need. It's very much just basically not judging them, understanding where they might be coming from, which is a very different place from where we are at, and then catering to that and supporting that and facilitating the other person having an easier time cooperating with us. It's very cooperative. It's beautiful. So now my questions to you, we spoke about it just previously quickly, is that being a strong woman, whatever that may be, in the modern world often means that we are showing up as our own kind of man in our home. Being a single mom, I've had to do that for a long time, running a business, having a son who I'm raising. So I'm constantly in my masculine. So how do I then come back to be able to even lean in with someone when I enter a relationship, to relax back into my feminine side and allow someone else to be the man?
Okay. There's two different parts. There's the part that I give you a preview of, and there's another part. Okay. I'm going to start with the other part. And that has to do with our mindset affects our hormones, and our hormones affect our mindset. Okay. It's this kind of thing. And it can be this kind of thing, or it can be this kind of thing, right? Spiral up, spiral down, or just be something that is a cycle. And when we commit ourselves, which in business, we are usually committing ourselves all day long. When we're committing ourselves to a destination, to a timeline, to a goal, an objective, it has an effect on our thinking, and it has effect on our biology. So we're drawing on the testosterone in our bodies when we're in a committed state of mind. And the nature of a committed state of mind is it naturally screens out what seems irrelevant. And this can really, this can make us very effective in business, just like it does for men, right? Most men spend most of their time in a committed state of mind, but it isn't good for relating, because our mind will screen out as irrelevant time to connect, time to be curious, time to care. They actually mean the same thing. Curious comes from the Greek word that means to care, which is probably why curiosity feels like someone cares. They're putting energy in it, right? And so what makes us successful and effective in business, that ability to kick butt and get things done while actually have enough awareness left over to cultivate relationship, it can really defeat us. So if we have a goal, for example, to get married by the end of the year, that's actually going to cause us to screen out a lot of really important information, to not conduct what I call due diligence, where we put more attention into buying a house or buying a business than selecting a mate, because we're so hell-bent on our goal or our timeline. And that state of mind, besides it screening out information like observations about behavior, for example, it has us not be open to who the other person is. They're like a target. They're an object. There's something
to be ticked off, almost.
Yeah, to be acquired. There's something to be acquired.
Interesting.
And men, like women, it's something we have very much in common, a human need to be seen, to feel like the other person is granting I am a whole person. I'm not just the supporting actor or actress in your life, or trying out for that part. I'm not just trying out for that part. And so one of the things that women can do, which is wonderful, not wonderful, is that it can be done to us, and that is that we can change our state of mind. we can shift from being focused, committed and focused, and to being open and connected. And that awareness, that connectedness, that is what people normally associate with, and they normally associate that with femininity. I don't use those words very much anymore because a man can be that way as well, and he's no less masculine. You know, he's still a man, right? But he's in a state of play, and he's being open and available, and we fall in love with them then, right? But we need them to be productive, right? Because that's when they experience being safe, and we experience, okay, he can provide for us. And there's something about their energy, right, when they have a job, have a result to produce. It's very sexy stuff.
Very.
So yeah. So if, for example, a woman is puttering around her home and just putting things away, she might have music on, she might be singing, she might be like, you know, and she does this and she does that, and she isn't having to get anything particular and done. She's just, her environment is talking to her, and she's responding to her environment, and she's making it more workable or clean or beautiful, and it can be really nurturing for her, right? And then somebody might say, we got to leave in 10 minutes, right? We got to, what are you doing? We got to be out of here. Chop, chop, right? And then her whole mindset changes, and her space, if you will, alters, her capacities alter, her ways of being change. And it's hard for children. It's really hard for children when their mom does this, because that connection with mom is part of their safety, and now she's not available to connect. Just get out the door. We've got to get out the door. And this is why I just encourage women, how much time do you have to allow to feel like you have more than enough time? Like, we have plenty of time to get to school. Like, do you get to get up 15 minutes earlier, right? For anybody who's still going to school or back to school, right? Or wherever you have to go, how much more time do you have to allow for you to be in like a state of grace, right? In an ease about it. Because you left plenty of time, and you don't have to go into that deadline survival mindset. You can be open to the possibilities. Oh, let's take that with us. Oh yeah, let's do that. You know, and all the playfulness and nurturing and being able to pay attention that goes with it. And whether we do this for the way that we live our lives, or we do this because we're going to have a date, for example, right? How far ahead of time do you need to start getting ready so you're not producing date beauty, right? That you're actually I call it a girl, right? That you actually show up as a girl. Boys love girls. And so, and I don't mean that in any demeaning way. I mean in the delight of it. When boys discover girls, the whole world changes for them. My boyfriend's son is almost 17, and he's just discovering girls, right? It's been all about sports and his buddies, and now he's
so cute.
Awakening to girls. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, like one man said, you know, femininity is color in a black and white world. But we have access to what could be thought of as femininity when we give ourselves plenty of time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so include, like, give yourself plenty of time to have a baby, plenty of time to find a husband, plenty of time. I have a student who has, you know, harvested and fertilized her own eggs so that she has plenty of time to find a partner, that her procreation is assured. She can take this on to gestation when she's ready, but she's chilled out about, I got to be married by the end of the year because I got to be pregnant because I'm this age and which is really not conducive to men seeing who you are. Right? So do you want to ask anything about that? And then I can talk about the other part you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind was just like, my son is just discovering girls as well. He's turning 17 soon. He's just had his first girlfriend. And you're so right. And actually, I think back to your book, To the Queen's Code, a lot in watching him. Luckily, he's someone who talks a lot and who wants to talk about things like that. And I think so often I marvel at seeing a young man relate to girls and how meaningful it is and how much he thinks, because on the receiving end of it, when we are the young girl or the young woman at some point, we are kind of wondering, oh, they don't care, they're just doing their thing and I'm just an object. And it's like how deep he thinks and how deep he feels. And I think that appreciation partially has been started for me with your books, because it's really like, no, there's so much more going on than we can often appreciate. So that's really beautiful. I just wanted to mention that. So
may I mention something about your mention?
Yeah, please go.
I hope that you will own your part in that. Maybe your son doesn't just like to talk about things a lot. Maybe you're safe for him to talk to.
Yeah. I think I am. And I think we actually both like talking to each other. It's one of our ways of showing each other love is just cuddling up and having a good deep chat about stuff. So yeah, no, I'm very glad that he's that way. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, well, I'm just not so sure he's that way.
Okay, taking your point and compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, really. And I'm speaking from the almost 33-year-old son, and how much he'll talk to me and how much he'll share with me. And it's directly related to, am I safe? Yeah. Do you know, am I open, and do I appreciate it? Am I encouraging? Do I not pry? I don't ask prying questions. He knows I'm interested in anything he wants to share when he's ready to share it. And these are men. This is who men are. And they will share themselves very openly, emotionally even, because it's safe. When it's safe.
Maybe while we're at this, is such an interesting topic. How do you become that safe person for a man? Because, for example, I also know men who are very careful because they've been very hurt in the past. Like, how do you become actually that really safe person to talk to and not sometimes give into that urge to pry out more or to want to know more?
That's definitely an urge. Well, there's two parts of it. One is, we call it listening to learn, right? We teach it in the Queen's Code, listening to learn. And where instead of normal ways of listening, which is listening usually occurs in a question that's in our head. And the most normal questions are, what do I think about that? What do I want to say about that? What do I know about that? Another way we listen is to classify. Oh, he must be a Leo. Oh, he's a typical Italian. Oh, I bet he's a third born, right? I bet he's a middle child. Like we listen to classify, to label, to objectify. It makes it feel like we have a handle on them, right? It makes us feel safer. Instead of those, listening, oh, what matters to him? What does he really care about? Right? And he could be talking about something that seems boring even, but if you listen, what matters to him, it's a treasure hunt. And so that's one part. Another is verification, and meaning that when they share something, if you notice it's gotten kind of wonky over in your space, that you're like, okay, I want to make sure I heard you right. Could I say it back to you? And then, okay, so I did hear you right. I don't think I understood. Could you say more about that? And then be willing to get another chance, right? If there's another way to say it, or they want to illuminate it. Or so, and even playing back. So what I hear you saying, and please let me know, I don't need to be right about this, is what really matters to you is this? Is what you really care about is this? So you play golf because for this, right? Like check back, verify, and it's a way to prevent a lot of mischief and to cause more intimacy, really actually pretty quickly. And then the third thing is you can't, if you ever use it against them, that's the end. If you ever throw it back in their face, well, remember when you said, and I know that you're this, that because you said that about that. And like, if you ever turn anything they've ever told you into a weapon, the end. Even if they want to share something with you, their own instincts will shut them down. And then the last thing, I hope, so getting to be a longer list, is don't reveal what you've heard to somebody else, and without their permission ahead of time, because you get shared with because you're safe. The person you're telling them what they said, no, they get to decide if that person's safe. And so unfortunately, we have an instinct that when we learn something, when we're shared something intimate with, the instinct is to reveal it to another person because it shows how important we are, right? It increases our status that person told me that, right? And the end. To reveal what a man said to a third person to them is just the height of disloyalty. And that's the end of juicy bits. They're not going to share that stuff anymore.
Yeah, and fair enough. I mean, we wouldn't appreciate that sort of thing either, right? Like, there's a lot of situations where what we do to men, we would not find a big deal if it was in our interactions with other women, but that particular one definitely is one that none of us would appreciate.
And yeah, so those are the things. And as you, another thing is, in parenting, and I'm about to do a free thing on parenting in the next few weeks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And it's the difference between punishment and consequence. And the way I think of them is, punishment is something that's made up to get back at, right? It's the pound of flesh to get back at somebody for something, where consequences are natural, right? So you can, for example, you can punish a child for not having done their homework, or you can have them experience what happens in school when you don't do your homework. Right? The next day you're confused in class, right? It gets worse,
and
right?
Probably really embarrassed when you're being asked about it and you haven't done it.
Yeah, or something like that. That's a natural consequence. And so we tend to protect our children from natural consequences and then invent punishments to try to get them to act the way we want.
Such a good point.
Instead of, if we let them experience life's consequences, they'll learn much faster what works, right? So anyhow, it's my children and I have talked a lot about drugs and alcohol, and from an early age, much earlier than I was comfortable with. And it's because we don't punish them for their curiosity. We don't punish them for their experiences or experimentation. We don't punish them. They experience the consequences.
Yeah.
That stuff has its own consequences, whether it's hungover or incompetent or off in another world and miss out on something you wish you had or whatever. They just have their own. And so this may seem like it's about you and your son, but it isn't. It's really about how do you be a strong woman? A strong woman doesn't punish, but a strong woman will honor consequences. And the place we have to start is with ourselves. We have to get clear about what is the consequence. Like, okay, so this is our first date and you've already criticized me for something. So what will naturally happen if you keep criticizing me is I will shut down and withdraw, and you'll think that's who I am. So let's decide now. Are you going to stop criticizing me? Like, take that off the table as something that's possible? Or should we just stop doing this? So then I don't have to go through all that. And you don't have to go through all that to not see each other ever in the first place. Which will it be?
Exactly, 100%. And funnily enough, I've learned to do this. And I'm now, after many years alone in a relationship where this finally works, and then I feel respected when it's being heard. And pushing it to the point where I go like, I cannot let something go. For me, it's been a lot about being able to just let that go. It's like, no, I can't let it go because it hasn't been resolved. So either we can be adults about it, sit down, talk it through until there is mutual understanding and resolution, or it will eventually erode the relationship. So we can just as well, each go our own way right now. And there's no point. That is so important. Talk to us about that. It's boundaries, right? Alison, talk about that a bit more. I bet you have a lot that I haven't even seen there.
Oh my gosh. So boundaries can seem mysterious. Like, what's a boundary? Where do I set a boundary? Well, the place to set a boundary is, what do you need that you're committed to having? So I define a need as something that has a huge benefit when you get it and a huge consequence when you don't, a cost. So sleep is a perfect example. Huge benefit to having enough or plenty of sleep even. Huge cost to having not enough. Criticism. Huge cost to being criticized. Huge benefit to criticism being something that you don't allow to happen in any kind of relationship. No, we don't criticize. We actually speak up about what we need. And so it's whatever it is that you're saying, no, I need that. Early in my relationship with my boyfriend, really early, like we wouldn't have had one, was me saying, I need you to show interest in me. I can't, I said to
clear point, right?
we talked about it today. I reminded him that I said, I can't tell if you're interested in how interested I am in you, or if you're actually interested in me. And I know men have a respect for privacy that has men not ask questions. So I'm not faulting you for this. I just want you to know that I feel safe by you being interested in me, and asking me questions shows interest in me. And just so you know, any question that I've asked you is a safe question to ask me. If you're wondering, what do you ask me? And God, I love this man. That was the only time I ever had to say that to him.
Yeah.
The only time. From then on, he is just so paying attention to how to pay attention to me. And it's beautiful. But I was willing, I was like, I said, it's okay if this isn't how you are, or you don't want to give this to me, that's fine. I'll just be glad you're on the planet. But we'll stop now. because I need this. And that's what I mean by first getting clear about what we need, and then are we committed to having that? And in our Understanding Love and Commitment course, we would call this your minimum requirements. And your minimum requirement satisfies the criteria. I would rather be alone than be with someone who wasn't, right? Or be with someone who was. I like to say wasn't, so I can word the word in the positive, right? And the sentence in the positive. Some of them are paragraphs. And minimum requirements are behaviors. You're looking for particular behaviors that someone is doing a relationship, living life, interacting with you in ways that you're better off and you feel better off, instead of, no, I'm better off without them. And there's what we call standalone deal breakers. Every one of them is, you could be all the rest, but if you're not that one, this isn't going to be it. And separate from that are a list of qualities that we need people to be. We call it the B list. And often the minimum requirements are behaviors that are particular expressions of qualities of being that we need. So the quality might be generous, for example, right? And what we need is, right, a certain way of behaving with time, energy, money, whatever it is. And these things that we get clear about with ourselves, right? That's the beginning, right? The beginning of, no, I need this. I'd really rather be alone than be with someone who wasn't honest. I'd really rather be alone than be with someone who wasn't wasn't energetic. I'd rather be alone than be with somebody who wasn't. There's 19 of them on my list, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's that clarity, and then seriously, I'd rather be alone.
And
right?
that's the crux, I think, because a lot of people are scared to be alone. I've learned to be alone, and I've actually, even in this lovely relationship I have right now, I have on occasion said, like, I might actually rather be alone, because I actually really value and appreciate my own company. And that's rare. I think a lot of women are so hell-bent on being in a relationship no matter what. When you can reel that back in and actually be content in yourself. Sometimes my partner in a fight has said, like, oh, you wouldn't find anyone who's better than, and I'm just like, it's not you against some potential person, it's you against my own company, because I really like myself. Big point, right?
Yeah, it's an important point in it. And when you talk about being strong, we have this opportunity to create lives that we love, lives that we enjoy. And after being married for 26 years, right, and together for almost 28, since Greg passed away almost 2 years ago, and meeting different people and interacting with them and finding out with other men what they bring out in me. And I didn't know how much it's very silly given everything I've taught for so long, but how much I both really love to be alone. Like, I got COVID early on, so I was quarantined for 26 days. That's what the protocol was then. And so I didn't leave my home for 26 days. Two of my dear friends got me groceries, and I left money at the front door, and they left the groceries. So I didn't see anyone for 26 days. I didn't have anyone in my home for 26 days. And at the end of the 26 days, I wasn't done, right? Like, I didn't.
I felt the same here in our lockdown in Australia. It's like, what? We're opening it up. Hey, I'm not ready.
Yeah, right. And I spent the last 11 days with Dan and got home this afternoon. And I can feel my nervous system recalibrating to how much I love being alone with, I'm not totally alone. I have my dog and a donkey and 2 horses and 2 cats I take care of for my daughter. But the point is that I do something called the Smart Singles Intensive. And it's first about coming to terms with that if we're trying to escape being single, we're already going to be really stupid. So how do we have lives that we love, that we don't need to escape being single? And then what is the situation we really want, right? And like, I just call it a romantic situation. And Dan and I, in this, it's almost 7 months, and we've been really close really fast. But on my list is isn't attached to being married or living together full time. And because I found out how much alone time I need, right? And so we don't think we'll ever marry each other. And we make jokes about that's another reason to never get married. Yes, it's really funny. Oh, and that's a good reason to never get married. And then, but we also were talking about the next 20 years, what we want to do for the next 20 years.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so it's this, we probably will never live together. We both really value our alone time. We get a lot done, right? And we really enjoy it. And we try to celebrate it. Like we separated today after 11 days. We already miss each other, right? But we'll keep celebrating what the other person is getting done and how nurturing it is to be alone. And I would call it the particle, right? So in quantum physics, there's particle and wave. And the quality of the wave depends on the quality, the integrity of the particles. So we need particle time. We need to take care of self.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before. That's such a good analogy.
Yeah. So, and it's around in our training programs, which can be so intense. We teach this and it becomes part of the lexicon of, so do you want to have dinner? No, I got to do particle time. I need particle time. I'm going to go particle for a while. I'll join you later.
That's
right?
awesome. I love it.
And they're just like, separate from the wave, go honor myself. And that's this other thing about being a strong woman and being able to lean in. It's interesting expression. We can be open. We can be receptive to who men are and everything they want to provide for us when we trust that we've done the work, when we trust that I'm clear enough to go out and engage and to recognize when a boundary when a need isn't being met and set a boundary and draw the line in the sand that this is actually required. And at a conversation a couple of days ago with my daughter, she said, she shared with me things that she thought I expected and that I felt entitled to. And I said, actually, I don't. There are certain things I require. Whether I deserve them or not is irrelevant. I require them. I will go away without them. And you could see there's a huge difference. So the things that you need, if you really need them and you're going to commit to having them, then you let go of, do I deserve it or not? And pay attention to instead, so what's my part? Right? So I'm asking you for something that I need. I need you to not criticize me. It sounds like this. Are you willing to not criticize me? Okay. Thank you for being willing to not criticize me. What do you need from me to support you not criticizing me? Because I'm committed to this and I honestly will only give you 3 chances. So what do you need from me to fix this? It might be a habit you're going to have to break quickly because I have 0 tolerance for it. Well, except for 3 chances. And it's one of the things we teach in something called a Great Ask and Beyond, 3 chances. It's way better than no chances. So once you know that you're going to be loyal to what you need, and so you'll set a boundary immediately if needed, then you don't have to have fences. You don't have to be on guard.
Mm.
It will arise the moment it's needed because you're that loyal to yourself. And so with our smart singles, what we advise them to do, and it works for couples too, is use every interaction as an opportunity to build the muscle of being loyal to yourself. Yeah. Watch what you step over, watch what you let go, like you said, trying to let go of it. And there's things that are worth letting go. Like, do I need that? I was telling Dan this morning, I said, I wanted to share my process with him, because most relationships are doomed because we leave because we didn't get what we needed, but we never said what we needed in the first place.
Yeah. And they dare to not, guess it.
Yeah. And so I was telling him my process, that when I see I'm like wanting something and being afraid it's not going to happen, then I stop and go, well, do I want it or do I need it? What do I really need? And only, I said, I try always to only have you get the distilled version, that I've sorted through all of it to the exact thing that I need. And like before we left on this road trip over 2,000 miles, I said, I need to meet you at my house and have a day at my house before we leave. So all I need is for you to show up at my house on Monday. This was last week. He showed up on Friday. I got 3 days with him at home before we went on a road trip. And like, okay, just so you know, you are so in the bonus zone. What are you talking about? I didn't need you to be here till Monday. I'm delighted you're here.
Yeah.
He's like, huh?
And you know what's sweet about that, and that's something I've learned from your books as well, is to actually acknowledge and magnify and really point out and facilitate that our men know when they make us happy. I think it's like, getting points. You said somewhere in the Queen's Code, you said men are playing for points, like to really let them have those points. I know that in my first marriage, I don't think I ever did that, and big mistake. And now that makes such a difference as well, right?
So strong, I would, something to know about men is that they interpret authenticity, right? Being real, as a tremendous strength. They say when a woman has the courage to say who she is, when a woman has the courage to ask for what it is that she needs, when a woman has the courage to be really upfront about something. So to men, it's very admirable, and it also instinctually they want to be with the strongest woman they can attract. Interesting. And so they're not intimidated by our strength, but what goes with it that is so necessary is when we tell the truth about this is how I'm strong, and this is how I'm not strong. Right? These are the ways that I'm strong, I'm powerful, I know this. These are the things that you're better at than me. These are the things that I need support in. These are the things that I need help in. And then they're like, yay, she's strong and she needs me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, they need to feel needed, which has always been one of my challenges, because basically I haven't in a long time felt that I actually need a man, and just making up needs isn't actually that easy either, because you want to be able to be authentic. So what do you must have found that a lot with your people on your trainings as well. What do we then ultimately, like, how can we have needs when we are so self-sufficient?
Well, but that's the question to ask. What do I need a man for? Really, what do I need a man for? I need a man to touch me. Life being touched with affection, with love, with lust, completely different than a life without it.
Yeah.
I need a man to support me, even to say, okay, let's focus on this. I need a man to play with. Men play differently than women. And there's an abandon in their play. And I mean, I could just go on and on. We each have to answer that question. Do you need a man to rub your back? Do you need a man to tell you everything's going to be all right? Or remember the first time I came home from Dan's house and I pulled up in my driveway and was completely overwhelmed by what my property requires. And he said, that's okay. We'll do it together.
That makes all the difference in the world.
Oh my gosh. My whole life changed in that moment. I don't have to do this all by myself. Because even though Greg was a different kind of man, he would never say that. We'll do it together. He wasn't a together-oriented person. Dan is. I need that. Right? Everything's better together. And so or he'll go, it's okay, I'll help you. And he meant it. I mean, he spent 8 hours last weekend sorting rocks in my front yard so the lawn can go in, right? So it's an important question. We all need to answer the question, what do I really need a man for? And I'll tell you, from an instinctual standpoint, it doesn't even have to be romantic. Just one man, you knowing that they're in your corner, you feel safe. And we think differently when we feel safe. We're smarter when we feel safe. And we have an instinct to identify a protector in every environment. And that protector can be a woman. I'm often the protector, but it's different when it's a man. We have it's a different vibration. 100%. And it settles us.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out the window. I have a donkey because donkeys affect horses the way men affect women.
That's hilarious.
So my horse is less, she's injured, right? She has a permanent injury. But horses around donkeys startle less and therefore injure themselves less. Right? Donkeys, they're the far masculine of the equine world. And we're the same way. We're less on guard, we're less jumpy, we're less reactive when we have a man that we know has got our back. Now, if he's grumpy, angry, cranky, shitty, critical, frustrated, or yelling, we're better off.
Yeah, exactly. The interesting thing that came to me, and I know we need to wrap up soon because you have another call coming up, I think, but this is the willingness to walk away and have those clear boundaries. Can you speak to me about how we do that when we are in a long-term relationship and things arise? Because sometimes relationships can decay over time, partially because of the way we start or stop showing up, partially also about, having children, etc. I found it really easy now that my son is almost grown up and I'm entering a relationship not to have children anymore, to have those clear boundaries and truly and honestly be willing to and able to walk away. Mind you, 15 years ago when my son was little, that by far would have been a different scenario. How can we implement those kind of clarity and boundaries in a setting where walking away isn't just so easy?
Well, I think given how long-lived we are, that committing to another human being till death do us part has us put up with things that cause us to lose respect and admiration and affinity, those three things, for another person and for ourselves. And I would far rather that people committed to a quality of relating. If I can't be honest here, I'm not going to be here. Right? If I can't be affectionate here, I'm not going to be here. I die when I don't get to be affectionate in both directions, right? So those kinds of, I'm committed to a quality of relating, I'm committed to a quality of life, a quality of experiencing life. And as long as you're there with me, we're going to do this. And the conversation that I've had with Dan, we're very committed to being in the present. But I told him, I said, okay, I have this, I'm a girl, I'm still a human girl. And you do something like what you just did. This was early on. And the human girl in my head says, can we keep him? Can we keep him? And he said, when I was just sharing this with him, he said, yes. This deep, gravelly voice, yes. And I was startled when he said it. I said, well, he's kind of talking to God. And he's like, it's okay. I'm answering. Yes.
Sounds like a great guy.
Oh my gosh. God loves me. God made Dan. God loves me. But I'm really straight with him. Like there's something he'll express and I'll be like back on my heels, like, whoa, I don't know if I can go there. And I'm like, do you need this? Well, I want it, but do you need it? Can you, when you think about living the rest of your life without it, what happens? Do you need it? And there are times when he's gone, no, I don't need that. And times when he said, I don't know. Right? Like he just truly didn't know. Could he live without that? Like, okay, so we're going to put a pin in this and we're going to revisit it, because how this works is if you can't give me what I need, I don't get to keep you. And if I can't give you what you need, I don't get to keep you. And it's like, oh, that's really how it works. When we stop being able to give the other person what they honest to goodness need and are committed to having, that's when we don't get to keep the other person. But our instincts are all about keeping. I'm going to keep you. You're mine, right? And what if not? What if, like today, he was starting about creating a business. And I just told myself that's really scary for me, because I know what it takes to do that. And it may mean that all the things I want to do with you that we've talked about doing together, we won't get to do. And I'm really attached to that version of us. I said, I'll support you. I'll figure out, I'll support you wherever I can, but I won't get to have the life that we've been talking about. Yes. Right? So it's just like straight, don't step over, and we're about to part for 17 days. Who wants to have that conversation in that moment? Nobody, right? You got to protect the little bubble. No, don't protect the bubble. Yeah. Be straight. You'll create a bigger, better bubble.
100%. And you can rely that you are always authentic and you know where you stand with the person then. And I take that any day of the week over something that looks good on the surface but doesn't have the same level of substance. And I think that's where a lot of people go astray, because they want the thing that looks perfect or the words that say it's perfect when the truth underneath actually doesn't match that.
Yeah, I call it form versus substance. Our instincts want the title. Do you know that we go from whatever to boyfriend to fiance to husband, that we have this title, we have a legitimacy. It's all survival based. And instead of, if you look at the substance, what's really going on, which is what men pay way more attention to. But do we give each other what we need? Do we make each other happy? Well, no, we shouldn't get married. Well, but we've been together for 15 months. What's that got to do with anything? We talk about that in instinct with opposite sex, but
yeah.
We kind of wrap up. My goodness.
I know, it's such a shame, because I admired this tremendously, and just having you here and being able to pick your brain is amazing. So Before we wrap up, I though really want to encourage people who have enjoyed this conversation, who have enjoyed your presence, and or to really look into your programs. We're going to leave the link to your website, the link to your programs in the description of this video. So if anyone is interested, they can find you there. What's your biggest recommendation? Like, what are the courses that are coming up or the programs that you have? I know you've mentioned a few. Like, if you had to pick something where you go like this one, if you want to make a massive difference, basically fortify yourself within to then be able to show up in a new, better version of you in your relationships, what do you encourage people to do?
I encourage everyone these days, most everyone, to start with understanding women, because it contrasts, right? Mm-hmm. And so you learn a lot about both genders and why we do what we do. And it can, when we as women understand, there's a very good reason for those things that you do that you're being made fun of, or that you're like you even criticize yourself for. That's a place to hold a boundary. Mm-hmm. And so I love it for that. And then I'm doing for the second time new material that I brought out just before COVID. And it's called Lux, and we do it online. And it's you can do it live, or you can just get the replay of it. But it's oh my gosh, it's about 24 hours worth of content and questions. And Lux stands for Liberation, Understanding, and Extraordinary Relationships. Mm-hmm. And liberation is something I'm passionate about, that we be free, that we be free of our wounds, that we be free of the conclusions we made about ourselves and others that completely limit what's possible for us. I'm a freedom fighter. And one of the things we actually do in Lux, which is, I thought it would work, and then I got confirmation from the man who invented these things that it would work. And then when it did work, I was so astonished. We actually release fundamental human needs, like core instincts, drivers, fundamental to being human. Like, for example, the need to be respected. Yeah. Human beings have a fundamental need to be respected. Mm-hmm. And we often sell our souls for respect from other people. And we actually we use the Sedona methods. Hal Dwoskin is the person who verified, yeah, that'll work. And it did, mm-hmm. and it does. We actually use the Sedona methods to release the need to be respected by anybody but yourself.
That's the most important part. Really release the need to be respected. It's like, what? Hang on, by yourself. Okay, good.
We release the need to understand, which so many people can't act until they understand. And we release the need to be understood. Like, no, you don't have to understand why I need it. You can just give it to me.
Good point. Absolutely.
So Lux is coming up May 22nd and 23rd is when it begins. And Understanding Women is there all the time. And depending on how much time you want to spend with the 11 hours of videos, you can get it, you can get them for 6 days. You can binge watch it over the weekend for 6 days. And
that's perfect.
Yeah. So, and then for people who do the courses for a month or more, I spend about 10 hours a month talking to people in our curriculum, just answering questions.
Beautiful. So that's really good to know. That sounds very attractive. Thank you so much, Alison, for your time today. More so though for all the research that you have done, and as you are showing up, I know also, like, if anyone loves this, if you just type Alison Armstrong into YouTube, there's like pages and pages of interesting videos and more to learn about her. Thank you so much for being here and for doing the work that you do. All the best for you. Thank you.